Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my great friend from the state of Delaware. I'd first like to comment on Adam Zubin, because I also serve on the Banking Committee and have had a chance not only to meet with him personally, but to witness the excellent testimony that he provided during his confirmation hearing. We all see very, very smart people. They come through and they agree to serve their country in these appointed positions, which frequently get bogged down here. And not taking anything away from anyone else who has ever appeared before the Banking Committee, I would tell you he is one of the brightest America has to offer. A wonderful family, deeply devout in his religion, which is he's Jewish. And a friend to Israel, a friend to this country, using his enormous talents to keep this country safe. There is no excuse, none, zilch, nothing, that would recommend that we not confirm Adam Zubin in one of the most critical positions we have in the Treasury Department. If we're serious about stopping Iran from getting a weapon, if we're serious about enforcing a regime of sanctions, then we need our best and brightest. And he clearly is our best and brightest. And one of the points that I want to make coming to the floor is that we cannot let incremental creep, incremental violations, small little violations. You know how it is with, we're all parents. And you watch kids take advantage until pretty soon you don't really have the role anymore of a parent. We want to make sure that when we're enforcing this agreement and when we're looking at this agreement, we send a clear message from the very beginning, which is we will not tolerate a breach. And I think it's disturbing that somehow this has become such a partisan issue. We should be all on the floor, encouraging the administration today to not let this agreement be eroded by the failure to enforce. An agreement is only as good as the enforcement capability. And we need to fund the IAEA. We need to make sure that they have adequate resources. My great friend from Delaware has suggested a long-term strategy for funding. We need to make sure that they have the political support, not just in this body, but across the world, to do the right thing. And we've been talking about those reasons why we, in fact, agreed to allow this agreement to go forward. And the biggest agreement was the enforcement regime. And we believed that given the access, unprecedented access, that the IAEA would have in Iran, that we would know more about this program. We would have access to more. We were reassured about that access when we went to Vienna. We were reassured that, yes, they were not going to back down. But if they do back down, if they don't give access, we need enforcement. And we should all be joining together to talk about what that enforcement should look like, how we fund that enforcement, and what a difference it can make. And so I share a level of optimism that we're moving in the right direction. But I also, being the, someone who has negotiated deals. It's not over when you sign on the agreement. It's never over when you sign on the agreement. It's going to take a level of absolute myopic focus on enforcement to make sure that we realize the promise of this international agreement, and that we work with our allies, we work with our colleagues. We can't do that if we don't have people in those positions to have a dialogue who can speak for the administration, and we certainly can't do it if we allow incremental creep. And so I'm joining with my colleagues to provide a unified voice today, a unified voice that says we stand ready to do what it takes to enforce this agreement and prevent breach and make sure that we realize the promise of the joint agreement.
Would the Senator yield for a question?
I'd be glad to.
So I was with you there when we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu about the priorities now of the partnership between our two nations, and whether that's giving support for things like the Iron Dome and David Sling. And Critical in that was also something we looked at there was our cooperations to prevent these terror tunnels. But one of the other challenges we have, before this deal was even executed, Hezbollah had thousands of rockets already with the capacity to be fired towards Israel. And that's why some of the funding that we all support is important to try to protect against that. But those missiles are getting more sophisticated and their range is getting longer. And so I don't think people put the connection together between the importance of us doing the banking work to stop the flow of money that can purchase those weapons that have Israeli citizens scrambling for bomb shelters. And I just want to see if you can, when you say a name like Adam Zubin, most folks in America have no idea who he is. The work that he's doing, now that you've been to Israel, could you just make that connection for me of why he and the work he's doing is so important to stop the growing sophistication and source of those missiles?
I think one of that question, my good friend from New Jersey, but when you look at the surest way to prevent acts of terror is to make sure acts of terror are never funded. That takes an international banking sophistication. That takes an understanding of every potential loophole you have in every country out there. That's what Adam Zubin does. Spends all day getting briefings and reports about where those potential failures could be and how do you plug those holes. How do you really do what is necessary to unfund terrorism, whether it's ISIL or ISIS, whether it is Hezbollah, whether it is Hamas. We need to take away the money. That is the surest way towards success. And if we do not confirm someone in this critical position, what is the message? And I would be the first person to say, if he's not up to the job, then let's find somebody else. But I cannot imagine having met him, having watched his testimony, having watched the level of dialogue he had not only with the Democrats, but also the Republicans. This isn't about the caliber of this gentleman to serve our country. It is about a political fight over this deal. The deal is done. Not done, but the deal is on in its infancy. If we are going to realize the promise of this deal, if we're going to realize the commitment that this country made, we absolutely need people in place to make sure that this deal is enforced, and that is, in fact, Adam Zubin. I can't and my colleagues who were on the trip with me know that we received a number of briefings that really went to the heart of taking a look at the international banking system. Where are the weakest links? How can we attack those weakest links in shutting down the terrorist network for financing this terrible behavior?